Welcome to the lighter side of the dark side. It's your weekly freak show here on Renegade Radio and also all podcast catchers and YouTube, wherever you're catching us. It's me, Dark Mark, the goth comedian. As always, I'm here. I'm actually in the studio this time. No Zoom this time. I'm going to turn the camera around too, and all you people watching on YouTube is going to look at that site. That's the birthday girl herself.
Yay!
Everybody's favorite horror writer, Nicole Six.
Thank you. By the way, I just want to say that this lipstick is courtesy of Jessica Zweig for my birthday and MAC Cosmetics, which was really cool. Go visit her at the MAC store.
Very nice. Very nice.
It's the first time you guys have seen my lips in ages.
Well, first time we've seen your lips in ages, but who knows what everybody... So, this is going to be a great show because Nicole texted me about 3 weeks ago. It's like, I met some dude, and he wrote a book about punk, and he wants to come on the show, and it was like, all right, whatever, no big deal. Then I get in touch with this gentleman right here, Michael Grecco.
Hey there.
Sends me his book, which is amazing. It's, if you have a coffee table, this belongs on it. This is an amazing coffee table book, punk, post-punk, and new wave. And this turns out to be one of the premier celebrity photographers going. And he's got so many things. I mean, you've taken pictures of everybody. And you are also known as the light bender?
The lighting master.
The lighting master as well.
But wait, even if you don't have a coffee table,
you should buy punk, post-punk, new wave.
You should buy the book and then buy the coffee table around the book.
Exactly. You could put it on a bookshelf, but
yes.
But you might want to pass it around.
Yeah.
This is Michael Grecco, and he's actually on his way to London, where he's going to be exhibiting these portraits in a gallery.
I have it's the Photo London art fair. It's an art fair, like a 5-day dealie at the Somerset House, and I have one of 3 public exhibitions. Because most of them are dealer booths and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I have a proper gallery space, and we have soundscapes done by the guys from Mission in Burma, and I'm editing together a video of some of the videos I shot back in the day, and we're making an art happening.
Right.
That's awesome.
But you've also, you've shot everybody from Johnny Cash to Chris Farley to Will Ferrell to Steve Martin to just every celebrity, Kathy Ireland, Martin Scorsese. You were also involved in the punk documentary on Epix, Punk, executive producer, I believe.
That's you're very good at this.
Yes, so
you've really done your research.
Also, there's another documentary that you, I believe, produced and directed about the adult film industry.
About the AVN Awards.
Or the AVN Awards, which is even better because I've been to the AVN Awards. I love them.
Loves them.
I always do books with long titles. So that was Naked Ambition, an R-rated look at an X-rated industry.
Right.
So that gave you permission to buy the book because there was actually no porn in it. It was It was portraits of all porn stars.
That's
right.
Awesome.
R-rated. Yeah, AVN's a good time. We're going to talk all about all that. Before we do, got to do our sponsors real quick. Look at this.
We have one for you, by the way.
Ray's energy drinks. If you ever needed any energy, go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
This is the best energy drink. You get this at gyms. You get this at GNC's. The best part of it, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 0 crash. Tastes just like Baja. It's called Baja Lime. Tastes just like Baja Fresh that you get at Taco Bell.
Baja Blast.
A Baja Blast or whatever you call it. And it's delicious. So I've got one for Nicole. She's going to try it finally. She's been waiting to try it.
I'm so excited.
It's delicious.
Definitely
delicious.
No, it is, and see how clear and smooth that is. That's wonderful. And if you go to our the description of the show, either on the podcast catch or on YouTube, you get 15% off a case. And I'm just due for a new case, so this is. I also have to send it.
We have to send it to Tommy Chong.
Yeah, when Tommy Chong was on our show, and boy, he's like, you selling energy drinks? I want them. You're selling Kush? We want.
Yeah, we have another sponsor that we'll get into later on in the show.
Yeah.
He wants all the sponsors. We're putting together a little gift basket for him.
Right, and he already has an Audible membership, but everybody should have Audible. You're going to be on the plane. You're going to listen to audiobooks. They got audiobooks on photography, books on punk, books on AVN Awards. They got books on everything.
Sure.
They got everything from Shakespeare to smuts.
Hard to do a picture book on Audible, though.
Good.
Very difficult.
Hard to do.
And kind of always, I love doing radio shows and podcasts.
Right.
I love your podcast. And kind of funny to talk about photography books on podcasts and radio shows. So, but we'll give it a go.
No, we're going to do it. And I've got visual aids for YouTube, so we'll be able to do this. Now, I will say that the one book that I do have in my Audible queue is Steve Jones's biography, Lonely Boy, which is terrific.
Amazing.
Have you've read that book?
No, I haven't. I'm so busy, I don't really get to do leisurely reading, so it's...
Well, that's something you should listen to.
That's why I listen to audiobooks. I listen to them when I work out, which is by Terry Goodkind, and it's a fantasy must if you like fantasy. It's really interesting, unique mythology.
But you have access to the hundreds of Audible originals.
I'm actually paying my subscription every month.
Oh, good.
So
Well,
I listened to one, and that was it. But I should keep them.
You probably
going.
have all these tokens in your queue now. You could listen to like 10 books.
Right. but if you go to audibletrial.com/DMS, once again, audibletrial.com/DMS, you get a free book and access to hundreds of Audible originals, including the new adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Sandman with James McAvoy as Dream. So
I need someone in our audience, and hi audience, thank you so much for hanging out today. I need someone to introduce me to Steve Jones. He and we were going to shoot the Clash at Bonds last show.
Okay.
Bonds was there for Clash was at Bonds for 2 weeks at this, what was a disco, and then they played this space. It was supposed to be a 2-day concert. Clash, they were so sold out that Clash was there.
was this like 1982?
81, 82.
81, okay.
So the editor and the writer was going to go down. We were going to shoot. We couldn't get in. And our friend Anne Marie knew Steve. So Steve and my friend Tristram Lozau and myself drove down from Boston to New York. We crashed on somebody's floor, like literally on the floor.
You do.
I slept with Steve Jones. He doesn't remember. I've heard he doesn't.
Oh,
remember,
really?
but
Okay.
I slept with Steve Jones.
That's funny.
And he got us in. He very meekly goes to the backstage door and knocks, and they were like, no one back here, blah blah blah. And they looked at Steve Jones. It's like Sex Pistols, and bouncers asked someone, and of course and then. There we go, hanging out with the Clash backstage.
That's great.
So that's one of the group shots in the book.
That sounds awesome.
I thought I saw something right there. But you slept with Steve Jones.
I did.
You and Cameron Diaz.
Really?
I saw Steve Jones.
She slept with Steve Jones in a different way than I did.
I'm sure she did, but I saw Steve Jones. He had a band with the guy from Guns N' Roses, the guy from Duran Duran, and it was Steve Jones, Duff McKagan, John Taylor, and Matt Sorum. And they were at the Viper Room. It was just like, I was actually, I think it was 19, they snuck me in. And she was there waiting for him. And the girl that was in the Eddie Murphy movie, The Golden Child, was there with John Taylor.
That's a great movie.
So it was pretty interesting. So Steve Jones has been around. I would love to interview Steve Jones, but forget Steve Jones. We got you.
I love that.
How does an Italian boy from the Bronx become one of the biggest celebrity photographers in the world?
Hard work, perseverance, and a little bit of chutzpah, a lot of chutzpah. So,
right.
I learned photography at a summer camp. I went to like a nice, suburban summer camp, in Armonk, New York, Breezemont Day Camp.
Okay.
And I in the science shack, I learned how to print and develop film, and I would shoot the counselors in bikinis, and watch their pictures come up in the developer. And
was that with their permission, or was that
who knows? Who
guerrilla
remembers?
style?
It was a little guerrilla style. They were around the pool. Yeah.
Right.
So I got hooked. I would steal the Time Life picture books, library books out of the Greenberg Public Library, and I did donate to the library and return those books at one point in my life.
So after you checked them out for 20 years.
Oh, man, something like that. They went under my shirt. I was up all night looking at like Avedon and Irving Penn and Helmut Newton.
And they're about as big as this book.
Yeah, they are.
So you snuck that under your shirt. You had like a big flat, like
big,
a
big T-shirt, and so we, going along with the fact that I love the longest book titles possible. The whole book title is Punk, the new book, Punk, Post-Punk, New Wave, On Stage, Backstage, In Your Face, 1978 to 1991.
That's true.
Just so we get it right.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm just going with what's on the cover. And Fred Schneider, the B-52s, does the forward. That's when I was already impressed. When I opened it up, I'm like, wait a second. Fred Schneider, the B-52s, this isn't some schlub just like giving his opinion on punks. This is the guy who was there. How well do you know Fred Schneider?
Well, the writer, Jim Sullivan,
right, who's a wonderful writer.
Who he's a great writer. He was with me in the trenches. He was one of the Boston Globe music critics.
Okay.
So We hung out. I think at one point I stole his girlfriend from him because what every punk does at the time.
Right.
But Jim
Sleep with Steve Jones, steal girlfriend.
Jim is an amazing writer, and he was connected to Fred. He's kept a lot of his relationships. I mean, the interesting thing for me is I left Boston. I left the scene. I got a job at the Boston Herald as a staff photographer. Moved out here at with an invitation to work for People magazine, and I sort of left the punk music scene behind me. I started doing celebrities, as you mentioned, and couldn't do drugs and drink and be up all night and go to work the next day. So
couldn't he?
Oh, I mean, I don't do drugs, but I think that's what the secret is. Just drink a lot, and then you'll be fine.
Okay, well, he wasn't doing that either. He got this raised energy drink. Now, why did you go from New York to Boston? Because a lot of New Yorkers would frown on that move.
It was an interesting move. Realize it was like the late 70s.
Right.
Right, and I'm a baby, of course.
You're 53, so I'm doing all the math.
Yeah, that's my Facebook age.
Yeah, I understand. I got it.
We don't judge. Keep the mystique.
So
you look great for 53. Whatever the real numbers, you look extraordinary.
Thank you.
Yes, you age well.
So I had to be far enough away from my parents.
Right.
But in a city, because I grew up in New York City going to jazz clubs and the Museum of Modern Art and, loved the energy of the city. And I was in the city from suburban New York all the time. So I had to be in like an urban area, but not too far away. My parents really couldn't afford to fly me back and forth to California.
Right.
But I had to get far enough away that my mother couldn't visit me.
Right. But it was a big advantage being in Boston. Tell Nicole what that is. Or what that was.
Well, it was a burgeoning punk scene, which I didn't know at the time. I thought it was still sort of a hippie college kind of thing, and little did we know there was like this great underground scene.
But that's where the bands especially overseas bands, would tour first before they would go to New York.
That's true. So Boston was the landing place for every band. So even if you were Devo and you started in Akron, right. The radio station, either because it made sense or they were just lazy, not the radio station, the record company, would set your tour up the same way. So in the summer, you would start in Boston, go down to New York, go across the top of the United States, go down the bottom, so that in the winter you're through the South and go back out through Boston.
Okay.
And every band, it was also a shorter flight from London, if you were a British band, to come in to Boston, and you'd get to warm up before New York, right? So if it was your first show, or you had critics there and people there, you'd get to warm up. 3 or 4 nights. You'd play maybe Boston, Providence, New Haven, and then you'd make it to New York.
That's great.
Right. So you got to see all these bands that
was quite the experience.
Just
as an example, what was it like to see Devo the first time? I mean, they've always been a part of the culture for me.
A freak show, you got to picture this for me. I hated rock radio.
Right.
Rock radio sucked behind. Right. I was into jazz. I was into Bowie and Iggy.
Okay.
And Roxy. I still love Roxy music and Blondie. I knew those bands, Patti Smith, and like that.
Right.
But I really didn't do the punk scene, and then. You see bands like Devo and all of these punk bands come out, and it was. I mean, it's startling because you're listening to album-oriented, like schlocky album-oriented rock radio stations at the time, and it's like the music is kind of mediocre, right? It's uninspired,
right?
It doesn't take risk.
Exactly, it's inauthentic, right? Rush, Journey, Kansas, Styx, it's BS, man,
right? Well,
I hope you're not a Styx fan.
I'm hardly a Styx fan. However, I mean, I know people that are. It's just I'm at the point now at my age, honestly. I'll be honest with you. My friend went to see Nickelback, and he was telling me how great it was. And probably 5-10 years ago, I would have been like, Nickelback sucks, blah blah blah. I'm just making fun of Nickelback, and I was like, you know what? He enjoyed it. He went to a concert. He liked it.
Okay, in my opinion, everybody loves that song "Rockstar." Like everybody.
I don't. I think it sucks. But that's not my point. My point is he went. They played Rockstar. He liked it. What is B shitting on Nickelback going to add to this? let them enjoy it.
No, I'm down with that. I don't like, I remember spending a Halloween with a friend, my friend Jeff Griffith, who knew that every word to every Journey, Rush, Kansas song on Halloween night, and he was like, was fist up in the air.
They're very good songs that make you feel good and they're great for karaoke.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if you watch Supernatural at all. Hi. I don't know if you watch Supernatural at all, but the theme song from Kansas, Carry On Our Wayward Son, is the
Carry On Our Wayward Son, of course.
Yeah. And so they use that for like every season finale of Supernatural. So if you're a Supernatural fan, you are also a Kansas fan.
All right. Well, there you go.
Right. So now this whole show we're going to be.
I was a snobby New Yorker, right?
That's okay,
I was like
you're
a
allowed to
jazz listener. Like I loved
You're a
improvisation.
Right.
And then, so then you hear like Alice Cooper and you're like, but then you hear like, these wild punk songs. It was before I came to Boston, and a friend, like in my senior year of high school, brought the first Ramones album over. And we're like, beat on the brat, beat on the brat, beat on the brat with a baseball bat. Like, this stuff is insane.
No, I remember hearing the Ramones the first time myself. It's so weird. I think most people do remember the first time they hear the Ramones.
And it blew your mind. And we were like, wow. So that, then in Boston as a college student, I walked down the street into the Rat, and I saw the Boston Battle of the Bands, and bands like La Peste and the Thrills and the Nervous Eaters and the Neighborhoods, and it was amazing, It was just amazing.
Right. Actually, first time I heard Ramones was during an ill-fated strip poker game where it was 3 guys, 2 girls, and we all ended up naked, and the girls maybe had like one sock off. But that's neither here nor there. So I'm sitting here just I'm mortified, nude. Then I hear like Beat on the Bread. I'm like, what is that? Because my friend was like a total he was a total punk rocker, and I wasn't at the time. I was like 16. I was like, wow, this is great. But so since you have the book, how do you define punk? How do you define post-punk? And how do you define new wave?
That's really, really hard, like to discern.
Kansas is none of them.
Kansas is none of them. Kansas. So thank you for a little assist there. I think you have to keep in mind that it was the punk bands that opened, like Sting will say, it was the punk bands that allowed the Police to get airtime.
Right.
It was the punk bands that broke open the doors to radio. So I don't know if a lot of our audience here would know, but at the time, you had commercial radio, and and on the AM side, it was a lot of R&B and some soul and Motown, and on the FM side, disco, and on the FM side, it was what they would call an album-oriented rock station, and it was very commercial, and it was not like, as we were discussing, I mean, I always loved Motown, but it was very formulaic, right? And all these bands like the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and the Buzzcocks and Steve Diggle's coming to my reception in Photo London. I'm very excited to see him after 40 years. So, it college radio really blew the doors off of all of that, right? So college radio is what started playing this stuff, and my friend Epix tells the story, the DJ, that he was actually getting Nielsen ratings interviewing the Ramones and the Buzzcocks, and and that's how he became the music director at WBCN, the K-Rock station there, because they were noticing that college radio was getting a lot of exposure, and we in Boston had the very first punk college radio show called the Late Risers Club.
College radio is how I found out about punk music.
Yeah.
By the way, did you hear the name of the show?
What was the name of the show?
The
Late Risers Club.
The Late Risers Club.
Which I think you belong to.
Oh, do I? Yeah, I do.
Anyway.
Yeah, I get up. It's true. I get up notoriously late in the afternoon.
Well, especially.
Afternoon?
Well, it's especially this week.
I wake up between noon and 2 every day.
Wow.
Yeah, especially this week. It's her birthday.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a good segue. I think it's time for the toast.
Oh, we're doing a birthday toast on air? All right.
So this is
we got Fireball.
We got Fireball whiskey, and we're gonna get back to. There's so much. trust me, we're going to get to all of your stuff, and we're going to get back to the punk stuff. But it was Nicole's birthday yesterday.
It was.
We got some Fireball whiskey, so here's the toast.
Cheers.
Happy birthday
Cheers.
to Nicole.
We ain't ever getting older.
No, we're getting older, but
No, we ain't. I'm gonna be a vampire forever.
Well-
I'll stay young and beautiful, and I told myself that.
that's not what you told me before the show.
Anyway.
Anyway, anyway, we got some birthday wishes before. But let me get...
No, what I said was it feels weird to be my age, which I will not announce on public radio. But I don't feel it and I don't look it, so I want to keep staying as young as possible because
Right.
California is a place where you can do that.
Yes, we...
I'm sorry.
Yes. We all lie about our age, so it's okay.
As it should be.
Well, speaking of that now, and I'm going to get back to the punk stuff and the books and the portraits, which I found amazing, but I do want to get into the celebrity stuff that you kind of fell into, because you were you were in Boston, and People Magazine, did they reach out to you, or you sent them a portfolio, or?
So I was shooting for the Boston Herald. I was a staff photographer. I do a lot of general news and events. And I shot the Maria Shriver wedding and the Carolyn Kennedy wedding. And I outshot two very renowned, one more renowned, Ken Reagan and Mike Fuller, from an agency called Camera 5. They're both deceased. I was good friends with Ken. Ken was actually there with me when I made the Clash picture backstage at Bonds.
Amazing.
That must have been some night.
Yeah.
Everybody was there.
So they wound up needing to pick up what's called pickup pictures. They licensed pictures because they didn't have them. They needed shots that they didn't have.
Right.
And the photo editor, Beth Filler, at the time, the associate director of photography, the number 2 person in charge, said, if you ever leave the Herald, I'll give you a job. And I thought, cool. So within months, I was like, I'm leaving the Herald. I packed up in December, and by January, I drove out. I called her up. It was the planning of a young man and not someone with a little more experience. And it's like, instead of like, where should I go, or what should I do, or where do you need me? It's like, hey, I left. Here I am.
I've made a few moves like that.
But she was like, all right. Oh, no, actually, what she said is, shit, we have so many people in L.A., but...
Right. I'm surprised she didn't say who? What? Who? I've had that.
But she kept her word. I was doing 2 or 3 assignments a week for People Magazine.
That's great.
And after a while, I was a regular shooter with them. And after a while, I was still doing more journalism kind of stuff, documentary photography, and covering events and things like that, and I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to be more creative. I wanted to,
right,
pose people and create sets and wardrobe, and I was very inspired by Annie Leibovitz in the 80s. So.
Nice.
Because I've got to be honest, before I researched you, that was the only celebrity photographer I really knew.
Yeah.
Or at least it's still alive. I guess Herb Ritz I've heard of, and a couple other people, but I'm not really. I don't know everybody that you know in the scene. I know her.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And I know now that I know you, I've seen your stuff.
Maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but that reminds me. Mark said you're married to a fellow photographer.
I am.
Did you guys meet on a shoot, or how did that happen?
Well, she worked for me. She was my intern. She hates when I say that.
Oh.
She was my intern. I'm gonna let it out.
Hashtag me too.
No. Didn't go there. She's like, you never even spoke to me. Like, I got coffee and pencils. I mean, what do you mean pencils? It's like, they sent me to Staples every day to keep me busy. I'm like, okay, all right. But so.
Oh, that reminds me, Nicole, can you give me some coffee?
I need some pencils, Nicole.
I got Fireball
and you're
and
good.
an energy drink. That's all I can offer.
Okay. You got a candle too.
I have a candle. I would make
Where's
a
the
terrible
candle?
intern. Oh, it's in my bag.
Okay,
That was
lights on fire.
No, I told everyone for my birthday to bring me candles. If you ever meet me and you're like, what do I get Nicole? Bring me candles. And then I'm happy.
But
Right.
don't bring gnome shit candles.
Oh, don't put that person on blast.
Because she's doing them for magic, and doing magic on
I
a
can't light a gnome on fire if I'm
shaped
doing a
candle
ritual
doesn't
stuff.
work.
But,
Got it. Okay.
I'm kind of new agey, and I do like blessings and stuff like that. And the gnome is cute. I put it on my table at home, but I can't use it in magic because it's like that's technically voodoo.
And also the dick-shaped candles you'll find at Avian. No, none of those.
It'll just
Vagina-shaped
melt and
candles.
it'll be wasted.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So about your wife,
So
you-
she knew I did the Naked Ambition book, and she friended me on LinkedIn, and I'm like, hey, when I'm in New York next time, she was living in New York, let's have dinner. And she was working on this project for years. She has a new book out called Money Game.
Okay.
Great.
And it's a book on her project on exotic dancers, on strippers. She's took like 6 years to shoot. It's a
That's
beautiful
amazing.
book, really beautiful
I'm,
book.
I'm going to Amazon right now and ordering it.
It's a little
Unfortunately, it's on
Portuguese
Audible,
publisher,
but yeah.
So she wanted to show me the images, and she was really excited. And I was sort of with someone who was okay. It was very comfortable. I always like to say with a smile, kind of not too smart. You know when you realize you're with someone that's...
Oh, I know. That's usually the first day with me. I'm just like, no. That's why you do the coffee date. You're like, no.
But on our year anniversary, she said, honey, we're together a year. I said, that's good. We'll always be good friends. She said, what?
Well, I guess that's a good way to blow somebody off.
So I met Elizabeth a few months after that comment. And I just knew that was it. Like, she's incredibly smart. She's creative. We have a great relationship.
That's great. And is this the first photographer you've ever dated?
No.
Okay. Do you tend to date photographers?
No.
See, I like that because.
But I started with one in Boston and ended with one. Third marriage, third time's a charm.
Sharing a creative hobby, like the most rewarding relationship I have. It didn't work out because I was young and they were older. We were just at different places in our life. But was with a fellow artist, because I think artists, we just see each other differently. Like, I'm a writer and he was a musician, but he was a really talented writer.
But that's different arts, though.
But it isn't. We would share, like, it was like poetry, because I get to see all of his songs before I record them, and like we would share the art. I think that being able to take pictures together is something that's kind of beautiful.
We support each other. We help edit each other's work, and we support each other.
That's what I'm saying. That bouncing off
really
of each
nice.
other, yeah.
I have an amazing relationship.
She's a trifle younger than you as well.
She is, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I'm aware. Anyway, let me get off of that. Now, but you got to see some of these pictures. Now, this is what.
No, wait, but the interesting thing is, in some ways, she's older than I am, because I'm young and foolish, and I'm very silly.
Yeah,
so I'm youthful, and she's very. So I keep her laughing all the time.
That's great.
And you're getting her paint and nails, so yeah, you're ready to go.
We actually do our nails.
I would have painted mine.
Our nails together.
I'm sure you
amazing.
do. See, that's the way a relationship should be. I like it. It's soul goals, but I said goals, relationship goals.
The young kids say #goals.
Not
really?
Yeah, it means basically you want that for yourself in a relationship.
Got it.
It's crazy
Goals,
kids.
Goals.
Yeah,
relationship goals.
Got it.
We want to have a relationship like you. Not we together, but we, or who knows what happens.
Mark, this is a little off point, but I had a fan email me and go, or they Facebook message me and they go, "You're single? No Dark Mark?" I was like, "No, he's my co-host."
They detect the animal chemistry between us, but and speaking of that, let me get back. I've got specific questions and specific photographs for you, but I do want to get to your well wishers. And then we will have you do the spot. Hold on, Michael. We'll get right back to you because this only comes once a year.
Oh, someone sent me a message for my birthday?
A few people did.
That's wonderful.
Oh wait, speaking of the punk scene, you've been in LA for a while. Bree Walker, the anchor woman.
Yeah, she's great. She's a friend of ours.
Yes,
nice.
She's been on the show many a time, and if she was in LA, I would have definitely had her on the show because she's old school, like '77 NYC, went to CBGB's punk.
Really?
Right. So she's
I like Bree.
Yeah, Bree's great. Bree actually said, "Nicole, you're so awesome."
Thank you, Bree.
Yes, sweet Nicole is a supremely lovely creature, worth an extra feature on the Happy Birthday Show with Dark Mark.
It rhymes. It's a poem. Thank you, Bree.
Yes, my former co-host before you, Hannah Bach, said, "Happy birthday, Nicole. You are a gorgeous, multi-talented, kind-hearted woman, and you are to be admired." Lily Hayden, the master violinist, who's I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lily Hayden. She's the Jimi Hendrix of violin. She's played on like every record that you could think of. From the Rolling Stones to Tom Petty Grammy Award winners. We had her on a couple weeks ago. She said, happy birthday, Vixen. So happy we connected XX.
Vixen, I like that.
Yeah.
Are you the Vixen?
I can be, I guess.
Actually, while I get this other message, I don't know if you ever saw the Rodney Dangerfield movie Easy Money
I don't remember.
with Joe Pesci, but she played the little girl in that movie.
Oh, wow.
Some people remember her from that. Well, we talked about it in the show.
Yeah.
But, Chablis Quarterman, comedian.
Oh, okay. She's nice.
Yes, she wishes you a 7th book.
Oh.
I don't know what that means.
I don't have 7 books yet, but maybe we can make that happen.
6? Do you have 6?
No, I have 3.
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Well, hopefully 7's coming in the years to come.
Nice.
That's a lot of pressure.
Ashley Rose, another very funny comic,
yay.
said, yes, happy birthday, Bombshell. Hope you have a Heartborn Day anniversary. Cheers to you for being born. You're a real one. XOX, Ashley Rose.
I worked hard on
Ashley
being
Rose.
born.
I'm sorry, Ashley Rose. I forgot to.
She's great. She's a comedian.
She's very wonderful. She's wonderful.
But yeah,
And
I worked very hard on being born. I climbed out of there. It was a lot of work.
Last but not least, from Charlie Renegade of Renegade Radio.
Oh.
If your toes are curling, you forgot to take the fishnets off. LOL. So that's enough of that. And speaking of Renegade, Charlie sent you your gift already.
Time to say this. So besides having wonderful energy drinks, we also have Renegade CBD, which is amazing. I took a bath with their bath bombs today to treat myself after partying on my birthday. They're so good. The bath bombs are called Achy Bones, and they melt in the water, and the whole thing turns pink, and it's just amazing. All your pain just goes away. It's very soothing.
Renegade CBD and RenegadeCBD.com, RenegadeKush.com.
Yes, there was a lot of kush at my birthday party, as you can imagine.
I'm sure there was. So, okay, so
Cheers.
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right, now back to Michael.
But where are all the Renegade treats?
Well,
Oh,
that's
he's like, you wanted to, I
We-
really should start bringing CBD to
I gotta be honest. Like every guest asked for him,
Yeah.
so we might
We're
as
going
well.
to talk to Charlie and have him give
A
us an
basket.
actual basket.
And you're somebody that can actually promote it, and
you go.
you've done such great stuff.
We had Tommy Chong on the second to last week. We had Lily last week, but before that we had Tommy Chong, and he said the same thing. He wanted us to send him energy drinks and CBD. So
Yes.
we got to start figuring out a way to give samples to our guests.
Yes,
for sure.
we really do. But no, I was going to say a couple of specific pictures I had in mind. Tell Nicole the Steve Martin story.
Oh, yes,
because
please.
you have a great Steve Martin picture. This is about the time he was doing the Pink Panther, I think, because he had the dark mustache with the light hair, and as dodgy as my hair color is, that I never thought that was a good look.
But it's the look I'm given when I have to photograph them. You know, some of these pictures all I always say I'm like the low budget Annie Leibovitz, because it's like she's like, it's Vanity Fair, it's like $100,000 in expenses, and so I'm shooting for Time magazine, and if it's more than like $2,000, they're like complaining about the bill. So no, not good at all. So I was told when there was a Time magazine that I had the most expensive invoices ever paid for photography. So I'm like, yeah.
Is there not a Time magazine anymore?
No.
Really?
Online. I don't think it's printed at all, or if it is, it's quarterly.
I actually buy magazines, and it's been getting less and less on the
No,
newsstand.
a
lot of them have gone away.
Let's talk about this. We'll get back to Steve Martin.
Many of them.
I miss magazines.
I miss magazines too. They
Yeah,
were
of course,
something
you're a
to
photographer.
hold and cherish, and and because of it, I'm like, I'm still shooting, but I have a lot of these creative ventures, like just setting up gallery shows and that sort of thing, because that all of those outlets that we used to shoot for are gone.
It's true.
Did you ever think there'd be a day there's like no magazines?
It's hard to fathom.
I mean,
There's no Time. There's no Playboy. There's no.
Yes, I saw that coming 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
During the bubble, realizing what's going to happen when all these websites finally take off.
Right.
But earlier in my career, when I think that, it's like, no, they were the establishment, right? They were the place everyone went to it was like having a possession. Part of having photography is like holding something you love.
Exactly, you're bonded with it.
Exactly. So Steve Martin, my friend Marie Tobias, the arts picture editor, called me up. She's like, "Yeah, we're gonna shoot." Steve Martin's written what's it called when you write about your life?
Autobiography.
Memoir.
A memoir. Let's use
Memoir.
the French. Let's go French.
I'll defer to the writer.
So he's written his memoir, and he's going to allow us to shoot him in his garden. He won't let you come in the house, but he'll allow. So we came up with this whole idea, you know. She's like, well, what if we put him in little kids' furniture? Because he's been thinking about or writing about his life all his life, and he's grown up.
Right.
And I thought, okay, and the vines wrap around him, and he's in the garden, and he's been there so long contemplating his life that the vines have wrapped around him, and we come up with all these concepts. I get a call. Steve Martin knows that you're coming with 2 assistants, and he doesn't want you in his damn garden. You can't go in the garden. And Marie's like really upset. I'm like, Marie, let's just build the garden in a studio. She's like, oh, okay. So we come up with this idea, and then his publicist, who I'm totally spacing on his name, but his publicist calls me up, tracks me down. Steve's going to call you. Where can he call you? I'm like, I'm on the road. I was actually doing the Naked Ambition book tour.
Okay.
And I'm on the road. I think I lost my phone, so I'm like, you know, have him call me at this person's house where I'm staying, my best friend Eric. And I'm like,
Right.
Eric, Steve Martin's going to call me. He's like, yeah, sure, Steve Martin, yeah.
Right.
I'm like, sure enough, Eric's like, Michael, line 1, Steve Martin, for you. So Steve goes, I hate this idea of the kid's chair. It's so Woody Allen. Like it's 40 years ago. And I tried to explain to him. He's like, nah, but I'll do everything else. So we wound up building a garden and putting him in regular furniture.
Right.
But I did wrap some vines around him and so on and so forth. So
it's a great picture.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's fantastic.
And I know he knows art. So
I think it's sad he wouldn't let you in his garden. I want to go to Steve Martin's garden.
Everybody wants to go to Steve Martin's.
this was better in a way. You know, I know he loves art, and I'm a big Rene Magritte fan, and I know he is also.
Right.
So it was they newly redesigned Time magazine at the time, and there was an actual inside cover, like a second portion cover, right? So I actually, for the vertical, for the cover, besides the picture you like, I had him poke his head through, put his hands through a hedge. And I'm like, oh, you good with this? And I explain Rene Magritte, and he's like, and literally he put his head through a hedge, like a prickly hedge.
Ow.
You know, and his hands, and he's writing on a pad. It was great. He was a great sport.
That image in my head is just amazing.
Great.
He was a great sport.
Did you see this picture, Mark?
At that moment, I will forward it to you. Although I don't know, that may be a little. It's on the internet, but that may be a little. We're gonna get to that right now because Because I also wanted to get to you because I see you're seething when I'm like, oh, I'll show you that picture, but it is online. But
we're drinking more Fireball. Yeah.
Oh yes, no, I know
it's like a speedball, right? Energy drink.
You know it's coming. Well, that's good. It's good. Yeah. This is if Belushi was still alive, this is what he would be doing. But is that enough, or you need some more?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
He said a little bit. I was trying not to give what I consider a serving size.
Well, I've been telling I've been telling Nicole for the last couple weeks, and how amazing you are, showing her the YouTube of you shooting Martin Scorsese and other people, but the thing that I think impressed her the most, I can see it in her face right now.
I'm waiting to hear what you're going to say.
The fact that you not only did the famous portrait of the XFiles, but that changed the show.
Yes.
This is the portrait of that everybody knows of.
We don't have to talk about it unless you want to.
No, I'm down.
Okay.
No.
I love the XFiles.
The picture's not. The picture's not the whole thing. We'll see how far we go with this. It's the famous picture. David Duchovny's kind of at a profile, towering over Gillian Anderson, who's standing right at the camera. They're down a hallway.
Yeah. That was the ad campaign for the series. So, I was asked to shoot the series, and the series looked like I'm sorry, Chris Carter, please forgive me. The pilot looked like it was filmed on in someone's gymnasium on a video camera.
You can tell the difference in seasons. First season is very low budget. It's still really great because David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson are such amazing actors. But I understand what you're saying.
So I think Mark's alluding to the story which I've told before.
Right.
Which...
It's a great story.
So my buddy, Richard Costers, who used to be one of the directors of photography at Fox, said, like, do your thing. Because I used to do these very moody, dark Michael, like brooding, dark, shadowy portraits. He's like, I want you to do your thing. So I went wild. I did their first advertising shoot and publicity shoot for the first season. And it was moody, and we did what's called cross-processed film, and so it was like blue and contrasty and weird, and da-da-da-da-da. And it looked great. It got a lot of play. Everyone loved the shoot. I actually I've shot them 3 times, once for Entertainment Weekly and once for a cover of USA Weekend magazine, which is that flashlight picture.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Which is that's the other well-known picture of them. But I had to shoot Chris Carter for the 50 most intriguing people in People magazine, when they did those special issues. And my buddy Richard Costers goes, Chris doesn't like you.
Oh no.
I'm like, why doesn't Chris like me? He's never met me. Like, why would he not like me? Like, I'm a likable guy. Come on. He goes, because after your first photo shoot, Fox made him develop the look of the show after your photographs.
Oh, man.
And he was kind of pissed off.
Right, because it's his baby.
So the way the X-Files looks, the moody, gothy style that we all love, is because of you.
In part. I'm sure they had to find their own voice, but in part.
That's what I was going to say. Like, first season is a little... So what I like about the Twilight Zone is basically you film all of it in like one room, but the actors carry it. First season of the X-Files is very...
The actors carry it.
Yeah, the actors carry it. And so I can see how he developed that together. He took your inspiration and then took his own voice and made something. So by season 2, you see a really different, defined X-Files.
Well, the pilot too was very had no look. Like you could tell he's a writer and not someone who focused on
visuals.
The visuals.
Exactly.
I think they made sure
it's not just the actors that carry it, it's definitely the script too, which is exactly how the Twilight Zone was. The writing and the actors carried it. But by season 2, things got more interesting. Also, you get to see the original X-Files episode, I don't know when that was, but they were still using green screen computers in it. So by the time that the series developed, we got better CGI, we got more interesting things, so there was more things that could be done. But it was a pioneer.
Right, but it was the aesthetics were because of this man right here. Now, what happened when you met Chris Carter and you had to do a shoot of him?
He was fine. He was fine. It wasn't. I just got that little inside tip from my buddy Richie. Richie used to be my assistant.
Right.
Richie Costers. So he was always helpful and great to work with. We had Chris. I had a black bottom pool in my backyard. The ex-wife got the house. By the way, she. But my house.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not bitter.
No, that's okay. She'll be on in 3 weeks on this show. So
I'm not bitter at all. No, I'm not bitter. But I had a black bottom pool at the house I used to own, and I had him walking on water.
That's
we put a sky backdrop behind him, and I had Chris Carter walking on water.
That's amazing.
That's
how can you not like me after that?
Right.
Well, I also did. There's one other photograph I really want to, besides the ones in the book, I do want to reference is that you did a shoot of an Olympic athlete. I'm blanking on the name, where he is still, but he's running by a tree that's on fire.
Oh, okay.
And the fire's still going.
Tim Montgomery.
How do you do that?
Tim Montgomery, the world's It's funny. Wait, I've shot a lot of the world's fastest men. Okay. Michael Johnson, Tim Montgomery.
Yeah.
In a year or two, they're no longer the world's fastest man.
It's a valid point.
Right.
Someone's beaten them.
He's a fast man. Yeah.
He's just a fast man.
He's one of the world's fastest men.
There you go. So it was Tim Montgomery. It was for a speed issue of Wired magazine.
And by the way, it's a different speed than from punk, post-punk, and new wave. Different.
Correct. Speed like on
human speeds, running speed.
And speed in general. It was like a Wired cover story on speed.
Right.
So,
bad joke. Go ahead.
It took a while.
Yeah, bad joke. Bad joke alert.
I put
Sorry.
him in like silver clothing. He's like got one of those running parachutes behind him to show that he's so fast he needs to be slowed down. And we brought him out to this great location with this dead tree, and it was like the desert and all this. And then Wired loved the picture. The tree wasn't burning at that point. And somebody goes, look at this. This Volvo commercial is using almost the same location and the same lighting as your portrait of Tim Montgomery. Look at this.
Wow.
And they had the tree burning. And I'm like, that's a great idea. If they're going to steal my look and my location, I'm gonna. So we had an After Effects guy through the fire.
That's cool.
But every once in a while you get a picture that's like, it would be great to enhance that, and you can now, right? It's.
Well, that's the thing. What's changed since you were starting out? You were,
you would have to do everything in camera. You would do everything in camera. If
develop film.
Yeah, but if someone was to, I remember having to do a cover of Entertainment Weekly with Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton,
right,
for Twister, and they hated each other.
Really?
They did not like each other. Stephen Huvane, the famous publicist, was like, they don't get along, but so I was going to have this big fan and have them flying.
Right.
I was going to put them on a wire and fly them. And you had to do that back then because, you could composite roughly, but, no one photoshopped like they did now 20 years ago.
Right.
And first of all, I was told they don't really want to overlap much time. They can't be in the same studio at the same time. They had a half an hour where they could be in the studio. Okay. They just shot 4 months of a movie, but they didn't want to be in the studio for the same amount of time. Anyway,
yeah.
So I got a call and I had this idea. I was going to fly her and get these gorgeous clothes. And Stephen calls me and goes, Helen's not a physical actress. And I'm like, all right, what it mean? She's an ethereal actress or, a imaginary actress? Or... Anyway, we had them standing and blowing around, and we actually did it so that they pieced them together. They got 2 different shots.
I
think I remember that. I think I remember that.
Did you use fans and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one that, it was a very cold studio, and I had these fans on me, and I remember... It turned out very beautiful. I'm sure your set turned out amazing because you're probably a better photographer than the one I had working on me.
It was just on white, but it was a good cover.
So you had to do Bill first and then have Helen do it and then composite them together? Have there been other instances where people just couldn't get along like that? Because I heard Duchovny and Gillian Anderson didn't get along, but
they were. He as the show went on and on, he got more of a little star kind of thing, and I think he probably just didn't want to put up with it. By the third shoot, by the flashlight picture was shot at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. The day started at their shoot day started at 2 p.m. So we got there in the morning and we started lighting and we started doing our thing. And he made sure he wasn't going to get called in until they actually needed him. So when they started shooting at maybe 4 in the afternoon or 2 in the afternoon, he didn't get called in till midnight.
Wow.
And we didn't have a break with him till 2 in the morning. So it wasn't oh yeah, sure, I'll come in early and do a cover shoot for you. It's no, I'm not doing anyone any favors.
Right.
And I'm a big star, and I'll come in when they need me because I'm not going to do the extra time.
I like David Duchovny a lot, but he definitely has a Hollywood attitude.
Well, but then again, he's somebody that was...
He's very talented. Californication was amazing.
Well, no, but what I'm saying, he's somebody that became a star really quick after, It's one of those things. You don't know how you handle it until... Yeah, he was doing stuff. He was doing stuff like that.
Oh my goodness!
He was doing stuff like that, and Twin Peaks, and he was knocking around.
Twin Peaks?
He was. Yeah, remember he was the transsexual policewoman.
Really? Oh my God! Now I have to watch Twin Peaks.
I don't remember.
I should watch Twin Peaks all over.
He had a cameo in the new one.
That's amazing.
Oh, in the new one.
Yeah, but he was in the old one. He was in the old one.
Okay.
He was in the old one. He was a crossdresser.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just been a while since I watched the original.
But yeah, Red Shoe Diaries. I
remember Red Shoe Diaries. I've watched Aquarius. I like David Duchovny. He has this amazing movie called Evolution. If you haven't seen it yet, it's hilarious. If you're a sci-fi fan, I highly recommend.
But if you become a star, that it just becomes from a nobody to a star.
I don't think
jarring.
He's a bad guy. He's just very Hollywood.
Was totally Hollywood.
Yeah.
And my friend Richie Costers at Fox, he's like, yeah, David won't fly. We have to get him to a press event in New York, and he won't fly Lear. We have to get like a Gulfstream D, so he said he can't bend over if he gets on the plane.
Right.
He doesn't want to have to stoop to get on the plane. I'm like, whatever, dude, your problem.
All right, that might be a little much, but now
I don't have an answer for that.
See, I sort of at this point in my career have a don't give a crap attitude about telling and not telling. You know,
right?
Like,
well, good, because we're gonna get some more dirt from you. But before we do, I was looking at your on your website. You have a picture of Johnny Cash. Now, did you shoot those album covers or any of those album covers?
No, that was for Hello magazine, I think, in the UK. They look
very similar.
They're the picture's not similar, but it was the album covers were done in a field. I mean, sometimes you'll fly into Nashville and be told to do the Sunday magazine cover of Hello magazine, and you're at his building offices in Nashville, and there's nothing around but the field across the street.
Right.
Like you often for these editorial jobs you're punting. You know, it's not like Annie and her budget, and she had a locations guy and go to the mountains, and they have a trailer and a camper, and they know it's Vanity Fair, and they're going to go give her 2 days, and they're going to go off into the mountains, and she's arranged for the sun to move in a particular direction.
Have you met Annie Leibovitz? Because
many a time. I like Annie.
Right.
Annie's a friend. So.
Tell some more pain in the asses in the celebrity world, or at least one more, and we'll get back to the punk.
One more. Rip Torn.
That doesn't.
I can see that. Like, I can see that.
Rip
Yeah.
Torn.
A very talented actor who just passed away recently, but so it sounds like from everything I've read, seems like a pain in the ass.
Oh my god! So I had this idea, this famous Hurrell picture of I forget who the actress was, blonde actress on a bear rug, like just this beauty pose.
Right.
And I was shooting a lot with a 4x5 Graflex Super D, which is a single lens reflex 4x5 camera, very rare.
And by the way, that's better than Rip Torn bare ass on the rug.
Well, so I told him this idea. It's like, I want to play off that picture. I want you in a tux with a cigar.
Nice.
In the same pose and the same, little tongue-in-cheek way. He's like, I don't know, you're making fun of me. I'm like, no. I'm like, because this is back when you would actually have conversations on the telephone.
Right.
It wasn't email, right? So I'm going back and forth with him, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's like you're a comedian. It's like funny. Yeah. It's like it's the same pose and everything, but you're in a tux and a cigar. You're not naked, or it's very reverent and it's sophisticated humor, and it's like get on set.
Yeah, it's making him look cool.
Exactly.
I think so too.
I get on set, and in the middle of the set, with the crew and everything on, he starts screaming at me.
Oh, no.
You're trying to make fun of me. You're blah. And I'm in tears.
Oh.
The producer just looks at me and goes, "Don't worry. He does that every day to everyone."
That's horrible.
No, I mean, the Rip Torn stories are legendary. I mean, he pulled a knife from Dennis Hopper.
Did he really?
Yeah. No, he was supposed to have Jack Nicholson's part in Easy Rider. But he and Dennis Hopper got in a fight and pulled a knife on Dennis Hopper.
Crazy.
And then there's the Norman Mailer movie where they literally had a fist fight on screen and in front of Norman Mailer's kids.
Yeah.
And they're both bleeding, and it's awful. But he's a great actor. That's the sad part about it. And part of that was just
I think there's something about acting where the more emotional you are, the better you are at channeling something. But that can come back to haunt you because then you're emotional off camera as well.
Well, but that's why he's playing a curmudgeon like in the Albert Brooks movie or in the Larry Sanders Show. He's great at because he's a fucking curmudgeon.
Yeah, he was a curmudgeon.
Yeah,
but anyway, we did something else. But it's like, you try to explain what you're doing to people, and all. I mean, you've done your research. You've looked at my photography. I don't know if members of our wonderful audience have looked. It's like I make heroes out of my people. It's like it's very reverent work. It's not irreverent work.
Except maybe who's the one you put in a box on the Psychology Today shoots? You put her head in the box.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was cool. It looked cool though.
But come on, models you can do anything with. Come on.
Oh, this is on YouTube, Nicole. I suggest you watch this.
Models are there for abuse. Come on.
Like she's in a box, her head's just sticking out of this box, and
Oh man.
it's for Psychology Today, and it makes a point.
Psychology Today.
Yeah, it makes a point.
Mindfulness.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So let me ask you a couple inside photography things. Now, most of the pictures in this book are black and whites.
Punk, post-punk, new wave.
Right. Now, especially, I mean, this is I'm looking at the back cover, which is a very evocative.
Hold it so I can show it to the camera.
Yes. Well.
There we go.
Well, there's the front cover. That's Wendy O Williams of the Plasmatics.
And you want to see the back cover?
Right. And who's that on the back?
Human League.
Human League. Okay.
And that's the dude singer. That's not. Everyone thinks that's one of the women. He had one of those haircuts.
That's
I get that.
Don't you want me? The guy with the deep voice.
Don't you want me?
Keep feeling fascination.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey.
I like them. You know what was interesting? You started asking me about what's the difference between punk and post-punk, and a lot of those bands, like the Simple Minds, the Psychedelic Furs, Human League, their first albums weren't sort of new wavy, commercially new wave. They were edgy stuff, like
pre-MTV.
Simple. Yeah, good point. Very good point. Simple Minds had an album, Wheel to Wheel Cacophony, and it was a cacophony.
Right.
You know, it's like same thing with Human League. The Human League had a very edgy kind of first album, you know.
It was very Gary Newman-ish.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And this is not this is pre-Dare. This is like the but I think they fired half the band and they hired a couple girls and they got an MTV, and Don't You Want Me is a great pop song. And they went through it.
Don't you want me?
But if you go back to being boiled and all that stuff, that's a whole different thing. Now, people, unfortunately, Wendy O Williams has kind of been lost to time. I don't think a lot of younger people know who she is, but boy, and she's before my time. But I've seen the clips. Like she would blow up TVs on TV. She would blow cars, and she really straddled the line between punk and metal.
Totally. So that's the cover of the book, the punk, post-punk, new wave book, is her doing sort of a publicity stunt for WBCN, which was the K-Rock station in Boston, and she's smashing a TV that had the MTV dog on it.
That's awesome.
So that picture was actually like a publicity thing that I shot for the radio station.
Now, did you the picture that the radio station used? Could you see the dog on it?
Yeah, there's other frames where like in the book, there's another frame of that that's got the dog on it.
Right.
Of course, the TV's out at this point because she's put a hole through the screen.
Right.
So, but on stage,
that's a very feminist image right there.
On stage, well, they wanted to do, Abrams, the publisher. I've had amazing experience with them. I think they did a great job with the book. My editor Garrett McGrath did a great job, and he wanted to make a statement. Punk wasn't all guys. Like it just wasn't all guys. But the performance pictures, like she smashes a flower pot and rolls in the dirt. She's got whipped cream on her, and she chainsaws a guitar.
I mean, she would perform with duct tape on her nipples, and that was it. Yeah, I mean, she was crazy. I mean, she was.
Child.
Well, at one point, I'm at the front of stage, and I'm getting all these pictures. And she takes a shotgun and fires it next to my ear.
Holy
now,
shit.
it was blanks, but I couldn't hear for like 2 freaking
minutes.
Like,
wow.
I went out and got sonic reducers right after that to shoot shows. Like,
wow. No pun intended. Yeah. Wow. That's... So how did you... well, here's the thing. Most of these pictures are black and white. And I think most of the photography that I've seen on your website and that... is black and white. What does black and white do that the color does not?
Well, most of the pictures on the Days of Punk website, on the Grecco.com website, and if audience want to go to it, Grecco's with 2 C's, GRECCO.com. It was just, that's what we shot, because magazines didn't really print color at the time.
It's cheaper to print black and white.
Well,
but also black and white tells a story that color doesn't.
Well, a lot of magazines were just black and white, and they started introducing color into their pages later on. So I had a magazine agent. I was represented by this agency, even though I was working for the Herald and freelancing and working for the AP before the Herald. If I was shooting a freelance gig, they were like, you gotta shoot some color because the magazines are going color, My editor, Donna Bood, who's since passed away, but he's like, you gotta shoot some color. So I would really shoot the color for posterity, but everyone used
the black and white. And these are all pictures that were not used. These are the outtakes, or most of them are.
Not all of them, but a lot of them have been in the file cabinet for 4 years.
Wow. But still in good condition?
Oh, the negatives, yeah.
Yeah.
We baby them. We
it's a we thing too.
Send in a massage therapist.
Right. Your assistant, who between getting coffee was massaging the negatives, and eventually she married you. But do you think that black and white does? I mean, well, here's the thing. Now you're the master of lighting, and there's a lot of live pictures here. You don't have control over the lighting in the venue, or do you?
No. It was very funny. I did a broadcast with Tina Weymouth and his friends,
Talking Heads,
and the Talking Heads, and they talked about how David and they figured out that if they used just bright white light, people could take better pictures of them performing.
Smart.
And of course, they were some of the best performance pictures, and they were.
Oh no,
they're right.
I showed you those Talking Heads pictures. They're great.
Yes,
they're great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
So no, but I controlled the light wherever I could. I got into lighting. My first 2 books were lighting books: The Art of Portrait Photography and Lighting in the Dramatic Portrait. And they were lighting books, and I got into that because as we started to shoot color, and as you went from black and white to color, you would shoot transparencies, and there wasn't Photoshop or retouching, so you had to light it and they had to look good.
Yep.
So I just got into it. I threw myself into it. So not that stuff though. That stuff was done more journalistically and on the go, and some of it, like the B-52's portraits, I had a little handheld strobe and an umbrella, and for the Billy Idol portrait and some of the others I would bounce a strobe off the back wall and things like that, but not very sophisticated lighting.
I personally think things are better when you take lighting into account. Like even modern photography, if you don't want to throw a filter on it, because filters always look contrived, you have to be aware of the lighting. Lighting is the most important thing, I think, when it comes to photos.
I'm showing the Joey Ramone photo here. I'm trying to find the Billy Idol photo because it is pretty good. There's so many great photos. That's Joe Strummer, The Clash. Anyway, if you could find the Billy Idol photo there.
I haven't looked through the book yet.
Can you flip through the book and find it? Anyway, I was going to say, there was a lot of shots that I thought, and this has to do with your shirts, I thought were Joy Division, but they were actually New Order.
Well, Joy Division never made it to the United States because Ian Curtis killed himself just before he was about to go on tour here.
Right.
So even
There's
though
a really
I was
great documentary on it called Control, which is all filmed in black and white.
Yeah, and that's Anton Corbin, another great photographer.
It's towards the back.
And I'm
looking for Joey Ramone.
Sick.
Billy Idol.
I'm a sick Joy Division fan.
Oh yeah.
Was it Martin Hannett that did the
Martin
production?
Hannett? Yeah.
Oh man. And that's the other thing, like Steve Lillywhite, Martin Hannett, what Eno did with U2, they were just musically creative times.
Right. But anyway, so while she's finding the picture of Billy Idol, I just want to say, and that's a picture that you're flipping by of Johnny Rotten, but not in the Sex Pistols, Public Image Limited.
Yeah. Which
brings me to, and yeah, that's him and the guitar player Keith Levine of Public Image Limited. Which brings me to the punk documentary, which you were involved in. Now, how did you get involved in that?
I had pitched the idea to the producers, so.
So it was your idea.
It was originally my idea, and then John Barbados got involved, and sort of took it in the direction because I think he's helped sponsor it. So he took it in a direction that, in a little bit different direction than I would have. I'm
almost out of book. How far back should I be going?
Maybe it's okay. If you buy this book, you'll see some great pictures of Billy Idol.
I'm gonna go check the index.
But anyway, so the punk.
The documentary on Epix called Punk.
4-part documentary.
Yep.
Because it said produced by Iggy Pop and John Barbados. Although it was your idea.
It was originally my concept. We worked with Network Entertainment on the treatment, and then they changed it to. They really changed it to be more Iggy Pop centric.
This picture's amazing.
Right.
Thank you. I love her. So that's the same woman I just showed you the picture of Facebook, Lena Lovitch.
Right.
So good.
You know, and it's like you're sort of a lot of these portraits, which I like. They're very impromptu. Like if you go back one, I think that's the Buzzcocks, and that's like their hotel room, and you've got Pete Shelley on the counter, sitting on a dresser through the mirror, and there's Steve Diggle and the rest of the band behind him. It's like you're just looking for places to make cool pictures. You've got Adamant on the left,
Right? How do you hide the camera there?
What's that?
The mirror.
You just stay off to the side a little bit, so you're not.
See, that's why you're a pro. So, I was going to ask you about the punk documentary because you were involved, and I guess they made it very Iggy Pop centric, maybe a little too Iggy Pop centric, if you ask me. Was Iggy Pop punk?
I think Iggy Pop was the first punk.
I agree with that.
I think Iggy was the first punk for sure. Let's take it back. The MC5 was almost the first,
right?
Sort of. But you can't discount the Velvets. They didn't really cover the Velvets,
right?
The Underground, and I think they were the first punks. So,
but the whole design of people sitting on the couch and the set, was that your idea?
No.
Okay.
Once John took over the show, I did not have creative control of it, and I'm not. I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of talking heads and playing motion afterwards. It's
right.
Like it's a very formulaic way to do a documentary, and it wouldn't have been the way I would have done the documentary.
How would you have done it?
I would have gotten people in action, doing things, interviewing them on location, but that's a whole different budget too,
right?
And that's a whole different, way of producing a show like that.
Well, I think the one thing that came out of the punk documentary was the big fight between Johnny Rotten and Marky Ramone.
Oh, well, did you see that on my YouTube?
Well, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Was that shtick? Was that staged, or what was that?
John's really interesting. So the first time I photographed him, I've shot him a bunch of times in the recording studio in New York, and went down to New York and with Keith, and they're actually recording. That was a cover to this fanzine I'd worked for.
Billy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Billy and I used to get into so much trouble. I saw him at.
See, this is where this is what I was getting at.
I saw him at an event and goes, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "Oh yeah, mate, I remember you." And I'm like, "No, you don't, because last time I left you with my girlfriend."
Well, that's karma getting back at you
Billy.
For all the girls you stole from other guys, and
there you go.
And sleeping with
Steve
Jones.
I did it on purpose. I was bored with her, so it was okay.
But I'm really good friends with his guitarist, not Steve Stevens, but Billy Morrison. And Billy Morrison is a very talented artist. And him and Dave Navarro have this new thing put together called Dual Diagnosis, which is all about bringing awareness to mental health.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, back in the day, in the 80s, early 80s, you and Billy Idol partying, how was that? Because we had Ginger Lynn on last year, and she told a great story about Billy Idol and a high-heeled shoe. And did
you read the milk crate story in the book?
Yes.
Yeah. So Billy, every time I was friends with Ace Penna, his road manager, and every time Billy would come to town, I'd get a call from Ace. Billy wants to see you, hang out. There'll be 2 tickets and 2 backstage passes.
Billy's really nice. Like, he's just really nice. I've only met him a couple of times, but he's great.
He's a cool guy. He was a good friend. We would hang out every time and, hang out. Like, I'd get an invitation, I'd come and hang out with him. But we're in, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And we're in Portsmouth, New Hampshire at this little club on, in this... who the hell knows what the place was. It was right on the beach. And we're backstage, and he comes running backstage. He goes, "God damn it! Fuck out, cursing at me." And he takes a metal milk crate.
Okay.
And he throws it at my head.
Oh, no.
And I duck, and the milk crate sticks into the drywall.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Billy, what the fuck?" He goes, "Your girlfriend keeps asking me to take pictures, and you're my mate, and we can't do that all the time." I'm like, "Billy, I have no girlfriend." He goes, "Oh, shit." And he's visibly, realizes he's done something really wrong. And, I think he was trying to set some boundaries of, trying to ask him to take pictures all the time.
As you do.
So Bill Coyne comes out, the famous manager at the
Right,
time.
right.
And my heart is like, because my buddy Billy threw a metal milk crate.
Milk crate at you, yeah. It's
Not a plastic one, a metal one. My heart's pounding like crazy. That's it. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun,
go
dun,
ahead.
dun.
Yeah.
And Bill Coyne comes out with a gallon bag of Coke, and not like a little Coke at the bottom of a gallon bag, like your mother or grandmother stuffed brisket into it, right? Like
right.
She wanted you to go home and making sure a gallon bag of blow. And he goes, Billy feels really sorry. Do you want some blow? Can she make it up to you? I'm like, and in those days I had to turn it down because I thought, oh, I'm gonna have a heart attack. So
it's very important to me at this point to mention that both Billy Morrison and Dave Navarro are sober, and I think Billy Idol has a different approach to things now.
Okay.
Yes,
Very
just
good.
for a disclaimer.
All right. Now, I've got 2 more questions. We're going to let you go.
All right.
I know you've been so generous with your time.
Thank you.
I know we went over, and I know you're checking your watch, as am I. So the Johnny Rotten Marky Ramone thing, do you think that was faked or not?
So we started talking about Johnny. Johnny's like an instigator, right?
Right.
So the first time I shot him, and he wouldn't get off the couch for me to photograph him, so I found him a fag, and I'm like, what does he want? A gay man? Like, what the hell is he talking about? And his British publicist goes, no, you have to find him a cigarette. And then at the time, for me to make a little extra money, I usually had a little blow with me all the time, right?
Right.
So the next time I photographed him, he wouldn't get up unless I gave him some of my kit.
Right.
I'm like, what does he want, a lens? Like, what is he talking about? he just likes to go off and like bullshit and like, but that Marky Ramone Johnny Rotten thing was a little bit ridiculous, right? It was like,
It seems a little staged. Although we had Richie Ramone in the studio, and he said that he's gotten into it with Marky Ramone, mainly because he would make fun of his wig. But I was going to say it would be great if you went to Johnny Rotten and gave him a cigarette. He's like, no, I wanted a fag, you know. But 2 more questions, and I got to let you go. I know you're starving. Why do you think that there will ever be another punk type revolution again?
no. There's too many. Punk came about, and if I talk about this, if you think about rap happened at the very same time of punk.
Mm-hmm.
And on the AM, that Motown sort of soul kind of pop radio, and then the AOR radio, they both had a breakthrough because they were so controlled, they were so commercialized, they were so like record companies try to control the economy of that, and voices had to come through. Now there's so many ways to get your voice out. You can,
right.
You can have a YouTube channel, you can do anything. That I think was really both, and I don't want to downplay the hip hop part of it too, right? It was a revolutionary time in music.
I would say you could make an argument that the last truly punk album was NWA Straight Outta Compton, that really scared people.
Yeah.
That FBI was investigating. I didn't think Nirvana was punk, but I thought Nirvana was great. But it's a different thing. Punk influence, but not
punk. Yeah, punk happened already,
right?
And it didn't it was great music, but it didn't. I mean, punk disturbed people. I mean,
right.
Beat on the Brat and God Save the Queen. She ain't no human being.
That went number one. They wouldn't allow it to go number one.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing is. And by the way, like I said, I'd never heard of you, but my father, who's this old school Navy veteran Italian guy, real working class guy, I never knew. I took him to the Getty Center, and they had a fashion photography exhibit. I never knew that in the 60s he wanted to be a photographer in the early 70s.
Oh, wow.
But he never pursued it. He had to support his family. But my nephew now is getting into photography. He's doing landscapes. What is your advice for a photographer that maybe has a $100 camera and it doesn't have access to the equipment and the people and the assistants getting coffee that you eventually marry and all the things that you do, like a guy with $100 camera and how to become good?
There's no such thing as a $100 camera anymore. But it's a really tough business. It's like the technology has made everyone be able to be a photographer with their phones.
That's what I was thinking.
And at the same time, the market for purchasing like high quality photography, the magazines that we were talking about, are all gone. They're not all gone, but they're going, and they're going quickly, and they don't want to spend a $200,000 to have Annie Leibovitz shoot something. So it's just a strange market, and I think for someone to do it, they just have to have perseverance, and they have to be creative and figure out what people want and how to get it to them.
Well, as far as being artistic and playing with lights, if somebody doesn't have the strobe lights and things that you do, what's something that a tip that you can come across if somebody has no equipment and they want to really accentuate light?
Well, they should buy my lighting book, Lighting in the Dramatic Portrait. The cameras and the digital equipment these days will shoot with anything. Like, you can shoot in such low light, and they should just experiment, Buy stuff used and experiment. And
get your book.
Find their style.
Exactly.
Well, that's a great way to end. Michael Grecco, there's so much stuff I didn't get to, but it was so great to have you on the show. I hope we have you back, at one point. That your next book, who knows? You went from the AVNs to punk. Who knows what's going to happen next?
There'll be a portrait book after this, but it's book has a life of a couple of years, so it's like we'll keep promoting this for a while.
Right.
This book is incredible.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing.
Trust me, it's every coffee table should have it. It's on mine.
Everybody should have it and buy a coffee table.
Well, yes.
I said everybody should have it and then buy a coffee table.
Whether you have a coffee table or not, this book belongs in your collection. If you have any interest in punk, new wave, 80s, fashion, it's a very impressive book.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike,
punk, just so they know, punk, post-punk, new wave, on stage, backstage, in your face. The audience has been absolutely wonderful for hanging with us all this time.
Well, promote anything that you want to promote.
I'm good. That was it. I just did it.
Okay, great.
Slick, right?
Right. It's Grecco.com.
Grecco.com, GRECCO.com, and the book is at daysofpunk.com because the name of the book is way too long for a website URL.
I agree with that.
Right. Daysofpunk.com, and then go to
Nicole 6 Books on Instagram. And that's all I'm doing right now. If you need help growing your social media, all of my clients have gone up thousands of followers and are doing a really good job, and I'm very proud of them. So if you ever need help with social media, send me a direct message and I'll set up something for you.
Okay. And happy birthday again.
Thank you.
And
And please go to renegaderadio.com to read my blogs. We have if you like this, you'll like a lot of the parties I'm going to, including one with Billy Morrison.
Right. And there we go. I'm Goth Comedian on all social media. Everybody have a wonderfully creepy week. Bye.
Bye.